Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world, around the country, around the state, around the city. Welcome to another episode of the Silk Stocking Sisters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Theresa J, Canada. And again, we have a fantastic guest. As you know, all my guests are special, but we have a really special guest today. And I'd like for you to welcome Miss Michelle Pettis. Miss Pettis, welcome.
I am so excited to be here. I can't wait to jump into things.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm actually going to read, folks. I'm going to read her bio. I got to read everything so you can get every word of this. This is significant. I'm so pleased to have her here. Miss Pettis is a TEDx speaker, food story coach, and author of the award-winning Amazon best-selling memoir, Leaving Large, The Stories of a Food Addict. For years, Michelle was a top performer for the most influential brands in media, including Radio 1, and Disney ABC. Finally, the stressful and competitive media advertising space took a toll on her mental and physical health. After gaining and losing over 700 pounds, yes, I said that correctly, she finally discovered the quote unquote secret to quieting the battle between her mind, body, and hunger, her quote story. Michelle's memoir, a category winner in the 2022 Memoir Prize for Books, explores the deep emotional and psychological connections to food and how these quote-unquote food stories shape our eating behaviors and weight management struggles. Michelle developed a prescriptive writing process to make peace with her mind, body, and food. Her approach emphasizes that the battle with weight isn't just about food, but about the stories and emotions behind why we eat. By understanding and rewriting these narratives, individuals can achieve lasting transformation. She conducts healing through reading, writing, and storytelling workshops where she teaches others how to find their food and personal truths. She offers various services, including workshops, retreats, and speaking engagements to show others how to uncover their food stories and transform how they manage their relationship with themselves, gain mastery over food, and up-level performance. She speaks to organizations, large and small. Thank you for coming to this small one. And sharing her insights and stories of hope, healing, triumph, and transformation. Her Free Mind Over Meals online retreat reveals her core principles for losing weight and keeping it off for good. And I want to say, I've asked Miss Pettis and Michelle, may I call you Michelle?
Yes, of course.
Food addiction and education. What students pre-K to 12th grade need to know. So I've asked her to talk about that topic because it basically relates to the things I'm doing with the podcast and my background. So again, welcome. And thank you so much for sharing yourself with me today.
I am so happy to be here. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So give us a little bit of background in terms of, share please just talk about your story. Okay. How you started and how you ended up where you are now.
All right. So I will tell about my story and how I'm here, but I want to address the last thing you said. You talked about what students need to know.
Yeah.
Okay, students need to know some things, but the community around students need to know some things as well. So none of transformation doesn't happen in a vacuum. Change doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's got to be the students that are engaged, the parents have to be engaged, the teachers have to be engaged, the community has to be engaged, because what we're talking about is shifting a cultural way of thinking about food and everything related to food. So students can't do it by themselves, but how I got here in the first place.
Okay, well, see, this is the point, because I want to talk about the fact that culturally, and I'm glad you brought that, culturally, people, and I have someone to talk about trauma, because trauma could lead to food addiction. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I got to tell you something. You have just tipped my hand. That's what my next book is about. The connection between trauma and food addiction that people don't talk about. Okay. And so I have figured out that I work in a really narrow space. It's a narrow space, but it's an important space. anything that I write about, that I talk about, is about food, emotion, culture, tradition, and trauma.
Okay.
It is the intersection of all of those things.
Right.
And you think about it, it seems like it's narrow, but those things impact everybody.
That's right.
And it impacts us at the cellular level. Right? It impacts us in our DNA, in ways that we don't even know.
We're not
Which
even aware of it. We're not even aware of it.
and sometimes that's what makes it harder, because we're doing these things and they're in our subconscious mind, and sometimes we're doing them unconsciously,
Right.
right? 'Cause we can't correct it if we don't know about it. Right. So you know what it's like. I think about last year, no, 2 years ago, I went to Spain, and we went to the like the this bullfighting museum.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
It was out of season, but they had all the other things, and they had this virtual reality kind of thing where you would put on the goggles and you could get in the ring and you could fight the bull, right? You could. And so you put you so I did that. And so my friends took a video of me with the goggles on. I've got the cape, and there's this virtual bull coming at me. And I'm like this, right? But if you look at the video, no one sees the bull.
Right.
Right. I'm just here with this cape doing stuff. I look like I lost my mind. Right. But but when I looked at that video, I said, that's what it's like in this toxic food environment,
Yes.
in this toxic emotional environment that we're in, is that we think we're fighting food, but we're really fighting emotions, right? We don't know what we're fighting. One thing shows up as another, and we're just fighting. We're just,
Right. We're
we
finding we're struggling with what we got to deal with.
yes, and sometimes we can't identify it.
Exactly. Most of the times, because
And
we've been culturalized to ignore things.
absolutely. And when we do that, it when we do it, whether we ignore it or we don't know what it is, we can't identify it, wherever it shows up, it's still not dealt with. And
True.
so it shows up as pain. It shows up as discomfort. And we can't even name that. All we know is that I think there's some cookies in there I think I'm gonna get. Right? It just right? It's just so we eat.
So let me pause you here because
Yeah.
you're hitting you're getting kind of close here. Let me just pause you here. You have to think about something. If you think about trauma, if you think about the culture, I mean, I'm keeping it real here, okay?
Mhm.
We've had to find ways, and I say that if you don't mind, I include you. We've had to find ways to cope, despite knowing what has happened to us
Yes.
prior to generations to generations to generations. All right.
Yes.
So, do you think that has happened and still
Yes.
continues to
Yes.
happen?
Yes. So what there are a couple there are a number of things that I do in my training that's different than what happens in the rest of the world. One of the things that I say is that when you especially if you're fighting obesity, you're fighting food addiction and it's showing up on your body, there's some shame, there's some stigma, there's some all sorts of stuff that's attached. And the first thing I say when somebody comes to work with me, I says, love on your body.
Huh.
Appreciate your body, because even though it may be bigger than what you want it to be, or you may be struggling with it, or you may have all these thoughts about it, your body is evidence that you survived it,
That's right.
that you survived the trauma. And all it means is that whatever happened, you didn't have the skills to manage it. You didn't know what to do.
Right.
And not knowing is not a moral failure. Not having access to the tools, not having access to the information, not knowing how to cope with something, it is not that's not a moral indictment. It's just knowledge, it's just information.
Right.
But you still had to go through it, you had to find a way to survive it. And so your body said, okay, I got you. I'm a step. Your mind can't handle it. You don't have the capability to deal with it. Your body's going to come in and do the only thing that it knows how to do, and it's going to try to protect you. So
Right.
all it is what you see is a manifestation on your body of things that you didn't know how to deal with. And so once people understand this fundamental truth, is that before you ever gain an extra weight extra ounce, extra anything on your body, you gained it in your head first.
Okay. And you said a key word that I really use quite a bit in my clinical practice:
Mhm.
understanding. Understanding. You might not be able to change it immediately, but to understand it is a starting point. Once
Yes,
you start to understand, then you can probably do something. But if you
yes,
don't understand, there's probably not much you can do regardless of what the
yes.
circumstances
You're
are.
you're you're you're
Correct?
you're trapped. You're trapped fighting that bull. And so I will tell you everything that I teach is something I deal with every day. And so a lot of the work I'll tell people when I I'm faced with situations and how I put thought process I use to navigate from it. And the other day, something. Oh, I know. I had a. I'll tell the short version of it. I saw an altercation. I saw an altercation in the post office, and it upset me to see this altercation. When I walked in, I wasn't thinking about food. I was perfectly. I was there mailing some books. When I saw this altercation in the post office, I walked out of the post office, and I thought, I think I'll go get something to eat. Right,
Mhm.
but because I have tools in place, what do I want to eat right now? I didn't want to eat when I walked in the post office. And
Mhm.
and what I realized was that altercation upset me.
Right.
And as soon as I identified, oh, I'm upset because of what I just saw, the desire to go eat, I understood, just like you said, the desire to go eat something went away. And so in this, that what I just described to you is one of the things that and we're not talking about this right now, but it's just coming up. There's a statistic I see all the time, and a statistic that I used to be that 4 out of 5 African American women are either overweight or obese.
That's
And
right.
when I look at that number, I was like, I see a lot of different things, especially when we start to let overlay this emotional overeating thing or this emotional eating thing on it. I
That's
say,
right.
here's the thing is that, African American women, we're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff all the time, from the
Right.
beginning of the day to the end of the day.
Right.
And if you don't have the tools, you don't have the coping skills, and you have more stressors and more things that are coming up and disrupting your day and sending you to a place of discomfort than the average bear, then it's so easy to go pick up some snacks or get to get something to eat. It becomes automatically to cover up the pain, to cover up the discomfort,
Right.
to mask it because you got so much crap going on. So it's not that's what I'm not it's that that's not all of it, but that is certainly a piece of it. The more stuff that you have going on that you don't have the tools or know how to navigate that sends you to a place of discomfort. If you're an emotional eater, it is so easy.
That's the way that you cope.
That's the way that you cope. And so this is about what I teach. That's why I say it happens in your head before it ever shows up in your body.
Right. Right.
Is that in my program, we go through 52 different emotions
Okay. Good much.
every week. Every week we process 52 different emotions through writing, through what I call a vamp process, through visualization, affirmation, meditation, and writing. We employ those 4 techniques around 52 different emotions. At the end of the week, what you'll know is that though you'll know how to manage those 52 emotions, and you won't confuse them with hunger,
Really?
and you will not confuse them with hunger, and you're able to reprogram your brain and get your mind back, because this is not we're not dealing with eating disorders.
Mm.
What we're dealing with is thinking disorders, because before you ever eat something, you got to have a thought. And if you can change the thought, if you can manage the thought, if you control the thought, you can control the action.
Okay. Let me pause you.
Okay.
Not you mentioned it's a statistic about Black women, and that's and and so I want you to give us an idea about the situation with Black women. It's probably a unique situation because if you look at what society says and the role in which where we're at the status of Black women, we're like almost at the bottom. Am I correct?
Yes. 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 Yeah. When you start thinking about the point system.
Right.
Right. Right. Right. Right.
So I'm just saying to you, it's more likely to that occur, but the fact that they're taking on everything,
Yes. Yes.
everybody's stuff, they take it on everything. All right.
Yes. Yes.
And so the result is the inability to understand that, but they have to keep going. So they do what?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to show up, keep going, perform, do all the things like nothing is happening.
Exactly.
Like nothing is happening.
Exactly.
And that's part of the pathology, right? The-
Right.
I just finished just this past weekend. I'm here in Maryland, and Maryland Public Television did an expo. It was a caregivers expo, and I
Okay.
did a workshop called nourishing the nurturer. It-
Okay.
You're a caregiver, and certainly parents are caregivers, but on one level or another. And as we kind of like age to like we may be caregiving for children and parents or somebody else, and
For everybody.
for,
So good
for
for everybody.
everybody, and putting ourselves last, right?
Mhm.
Putting
Mhm.
ourselves last, and wrapped around this notion that we have to do in order to be worthy. So there's all of this is on top of the food stuff.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
so this work is about addressing those tropes, if you will, right?
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but some of this stuff is so deeply embedded. We have to deal with it one thing at a time
Well,
over time. It is
like,
it is not a 6 week movie.
so I want to expound on that a little bit.
Okay.
When we talk about young people now, if you talk about uh Black women in particular, I'm gonna go there. We
Mhm.
take on the world, quote unquote.
Yes.
All right. Now you think about it. Young children who have Black parents
Hmm.
and they're trying to cope, and then they're trying to allow their children. What is it that the child perceives? What is it the child's witness?
Absolutely.
What? So
Absolutely.
so I want you to talk about how this food addiction and education relates, because you just pointedly described what happens. And then I'm saying, now you take that to the next level in terms of looking at how the younger children
Yes.
who are
Yes.
around them in schools and so forth and so
Yes.
on, how they
Yes.
observe and how they then imitate.
Yes. So this is a layered and complex problem, and we're going to go through as much of it as we can in this conversation. But here's the thing: the parents can't teach what they don't know.
That's right.
So if childhood obesity is an issue, right? It is because children are imitating, but also because parents don't know. Because parents are using food as a reward. Because parents are saying, well, if there's a pizza party, I don't want my child not to feel bad because they're not eating pizza. I don't want to make them feel like they're being punished or they're not being able to have the same pleasure as
Mhm.
everybody else. If
Mhm.
if I want them to have the biggest cake, I want them to have the most ice cream, because I don't ever want to hear. I want to give my child plenty of food, because I have grandparents and parents that came from the South, that came from someplace that they remember not having food. They remember going to bed hungry and waking up hungry, and what shame was attached to that. And I want to make sure my child has plenty. And I don't
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
child said, "Mama, I'm hungry," because if they say that, that means I'm not a good parent. So
Right.
I want them to have all the stuff on TV that they say kids ought to eat. My child's gonna have that, because my child is as good or better than any other child, and I'm gonna show it. And so when I see a kid that's overweight, that's chubby, all right, the first thing that goes through my mind is this: the parents love that kid. They don't realize that what they're doing is killing them, because they love them, because they don't want them to want for anything. They want
Right.
they right but they don't realize that the food is the problem. They don't realize what they're feeding them what they're feeding them, what it's doing to them. They
Right.
they really they
They're
really
not aware of that. The awareness is lacking.
they're not aware. So I mean, it's just like this. When you think about the cereal, it is, I mean, it is criminal to me. It is criminal to me
Mhm.
that there is sugar in baby formula.
That's right. They have to. You become addicted, and you grow up on that, and you
Yes,
expect that at every stage of your life. You expect
yes,
that where I'm missing something. This doesn't taste good. Why doesn't it taste good? Because when you were infant, you were fed this, and now you're still seeking that same. So that's the stages that go through from the very infancy until the rest of the progression as they grow up. All right, is that correct?
No, it's so this addiction starts early, but parents don't parents don't understand that this stuff is depending on what research you're looking at is more addictive than cocaine. They don't understand that. They don't look at the cookies, they don't look at the pies, they don't look at the ice cream and think diabetes. They don't look at that and think blindness. They don't look at that and think limbs being cut off. All they look at is think of is what the advertising tells them, the pretty
Right.
pictures, the fun. And so we have to continually create messages that separate that and tell the truth and teach parents step by step, day by day, that it is about nutrition, that
Good.
it is about, and that here's the thing, here's the real thing, here's the truth that nobody says, is that what we eat, what we put in our mouth is going to kill us or cure us. There is no in between. It is going to heal us or it is going to hurt us.
Great point. Great.
There is no in between. And when we start looking at the food critically like this and not using it for pleasure, not using it for entertainment, and I'm not saying not having pleasure or entertainment in your life. I'm saying find some other ways to do it other than the food. Because the food industry, the snack food industry, the junk food industry, the processed
Mhm.
industry will trick you and say that it's more important that food be convenient, that it's more important that food be fast. It's more important that food be pleasurable. They have sold us on that that's what you need to eat, that which is convenient, quick, and pleasurable, not that which will save your life.
Healthy, right? Healthy for you. Well, that's a business. It's a business.
It's a
Come on.
business. It's a big it's a business. And all but here's the other thing that parents don't know that but the schools get on a certain level to the degree that they can
Right.
is that outside of what nutrition does for the body, it nourishes the brain.
The mind. Thank
It,
you. Thank you. Thank you,
yes,
Michelle. Thank you.
yes. So if you want your kid to be smarter, then feed them like you want them to be smarter because the processed food, the snack food, the junk food impairs cognition. It impairs cognition. It
Thank you.
impacts memory. So feed them like you want a high functioning brain. So the workshop is here's what high functioning children eat. Here's you want a high functioning, high performing child, feed them this way.
So people, listen. You will be able to access Michelle's information. It'll be available on the YouTube link. We'll put underneath the messages and underneath, so you can contact me directly.
Mhm.
On my website, and my email is available as well. So I'll provide that information for people to contact you because knowledge is a key here. And I think that what you're sharing, I'm just saying, I think about how, education, I mean, that goes back to it, but I understand you're saying the nurturing. If people were traumatized and they say, well, I got to make better for my children and, they get education. But I'm thinking back on, there was a time, now I'm old school here, when you got to the cafeteria and it was the sisters behind the cafeteria and they're giving, no, you drink that and you eat. I mean, you had the certain kinds of foods. You didn't have a whole bunch of junk food. I didn't even know what junk food was as a child. I didn't know what it was
Yes,
at school,
yes,
especially I'm like, what junk food? They didn't have machines that you can go and get stuff out of the machine on top
yes,
of the regular food. That's if you go to a typical school's cafeteria, you have nothing but machines that you can buy junk food.
yep. And so here's the pity of it. If you go to the hospital, you find those same vending
That's
machines.
right.
And if you cannot get food that is going to heal you in a hospital, where can you get it?
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. And but let me share something else with you as we talk about these vending machines and the presence and the prevalence of snack food and junk food and why we didn't have it before and why we have it now.
Okay.
It's related to tobacco. And I don't know if you are familiar with this story or read about the history. In the 1980s, when the government started to regulate the tobacco industry,
Mhm.
the tobacco industry bought into the snack food companies and the junk food companies. and they took their business model and they applied it to the snack food companies and the junk food companies. It's documented. There are all sorts of articles about it. This addiction, this processed food addiction, all of this, it is a business model
Mhm. Mhm.
that was developed by the people that are experts at it. And so what they do is, first of all, they formulate the food, or the stuff they call food that's not really food, the fake food.
Mhm.
They formulate it to make it addictive. They
Right.
formulate it to make it so that you can't eat just one. They make it so palatable. Right. They spend billions of dollars getting the taste just right, the texture just right, so that you can't stop eating it. And then you beat yourself up because you don't have any willpower, because you don't have any self-control, because you don't have any self-discipline. And it doesn't have anything to do with that. It has everything to do with addiction and the design that allows you to eat a bunch of high calorie, low density nutrient food in a short period of time.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
that's thing number one. And we talked about thing number two, age, starting early.
Right.
Getting these
Right.
with the colorful boxes, with the
Yes.
the children, right? Mom, I want this. Daddy, I want this. They have it on, right? Like start with that. So with the average, and the messages are incessant. They keep coming
Constantly. Constantly.
constantly, and this constant barrage of messaging starts to change our brain and turn our brains into addictive brains.
Yep.
And unless we are conscious of it and aware of it, we succumb to it and we don't even understand why. And that is why it is so important that we do the work of what I say, the visualization, the affirmations, the meditation, and the writing, because that is all internal work. That is all inside work. That is all brain work so that we can fight all these external forces and sometimes internal forces that
Yeah.
that have us eating when we're not hungry. Because the reality is that every desire to eat is not hunger. And we don't always know the difference.
Well, most of us don't know the difference, and
No.
it goes back to the education piece.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that I thank you for what you're doing, the work you're doing now to try to educate people. This
Yes.
talk about educating, letting
Yes.
people know the real deal. So I'm just grateful that because, like I said, the cognitive ability of people are shrinking, and it starts at an early age.
Yes.
And then you take that, you expect children in the classroom to behave, to learn. And if you could, talking about kids jumping all, yeah, they're jumping all over the place, but what can they help? They can't help it because of what they're eating. Okay.
Yes.
It's what they're
Yes.
eating, and it starts at an early age, as you mentioned about infant formulas. So you expect that, everybody, and then of course, they all have special needs. Like, oh man, not really. Yeah,
Yes.
if they had a healthy diet, we wouldn't have some of the issues that we currently have. Is that
Right. Right. And the reality is just because something says healthy on the front of the package
doesn't mean it's healthy?
doesn't mean that it is.
People don't just
Right.
look at the ingredients, what's in stuff.
We have got to go deeper. We have to go deeper on a regular basis. We have got to be vigilant. We have when when there is this understanding that food is medicine.
Yes, yes, yes.
Food is medicine. We're making decisions about our lives, right?
Yeah.
We're making decisions about our children's lives. I have developed a whole curriculum. In fact, I just developed a curriculum around this, and there are 5 different modules: modules for parents, modules for teachers, modules for around exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is my
Well,
my
I have to bring you back on because we gotta have another conversation here. Anyway, I know our time is winding down, and so much information you've shared with the audience, and it's just amazing. I wish we could be on here for another hour or two. But I know your time is precious, and I want to make sure that I'm honoring your time schedule. But I'm just so grateful for sharing because I mean, like you just said, this is just something that we have to teach people. It's an educational component, and it starts early. It doesn't wait till you're like
early.
35, you're 40 years old, whatever, and then they, you're overweight and you don't, oh, I can't lose this weight or whatever. And then you look at the children And the fact that children's observing and it's everything. The children see what the adults are doing, and they're going to do what
Exactly.
the adults are doing. So, it has to start with early age. It starts with education, which I'm
Yes.
grateful. So hopefully people will check out your workshops and so forth and so on. And we'll have the information available so they can contact you to be involved. And can you want to share anything about this coming up recently? That's coming up,
Yes, yes. So, first of all, I just, I want to thank you, Dr. Kenna, for this conversation, for holding space, and I will come back anytime.
Okay.
Anytime. I have enjoyed it so much, and for anybody that wants to reach me, I'm the easiest person in the world. Fine. You can email me directly. I answer all of my emails. Michelle at Michelle Pettis, Petties.com, Michelle at Michelle Pettis. It's two L's. You can look me up. What I have coming up, and this is I do this. I do what I call a mind over meals retreat.
Okay.
Online retreat. So you can access it as long as you have Zoom from anywhere in the world. It's 8 days, and it's 8 days, an hour a day, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, because that's where I am. If you're someplace else, you got to adjust the time. And it's 8 days for an hour. We go through all the principles that my platform is built on, that allows you to transform your thinking, and your belief around food, eating, and hunger. Because you transform your thinking, then you can transform your actions. And we do it one step at a time. It doesn't have to be hard. It is absolutely doable. And I want anybody to know, I was 60 years old before I figured it out. I was 60 years old before I looked up the definition of food and understood what it was.
So it's
And
never
so
too late, right?
it's never too late. Never too late.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Michelle Pettis. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and information. And I look at this in terms of we have to start early. We can't
Yeah.
wait we don't want to wait till when we turn 60 or plus, 60 plus or 70 plus. I'm saying we need to start early. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to share this information. And thank you so much for sharing this information with my audience, because this is another piece about education, and it also impacts on how young children pursue their lives in education and moving through the ladder. So, you think about children not being able to pay attention in school, all you educators out there, there's some reasons behind that, okay?
Yep.
So it's not just that you're not a good, quote, teacher, it's that something that's beyond just the teaching component. We
Absolutely.
educate in other ways. And so
Absolutely.
anyway, thank you so much for sharing your information. And I'm sure you're going to come back, and I'm gonna hold you to that. And so anyway, everyone, thank you again for us listening to another episode of Silk Stocking Sisters. So we'll hear from you and see you next time. Have a great day, everybody. Bye now.